interventions in mental health space. So that is one area which we are working for. Other than that, we are creating the wellness centers in all our hospitals. One of the areas in the diagnostic is the genomic sequencing, which is a good predictor of a lot of diseases one may have in future. And that can give rise to a specific preventive plan for an individual, a personalized preventive plan for an individual. So we have this next generation sequencing, which can give the report the same day, so that increases the kind of probability of preparing a kind of personalized plan for an individual.
Dr. Raghuvanshi, also what would you tell a lot of people who use AI, ChatGPT to understand what's happening to them, when it comes to preventive healthcare? What is the red line that they need to draw for themselves?
I think one has to understand that these tools are not yet there. They do give an indication, but that indication could be wrong also. At the moment, at the best, you can get 60-70% accuracy, not beyond that, and sometimes even less. Because ChatGPT is going to give you analysis based on what inputs you give. So if your inputs aren't correct, your output is not going to be good. So it's not the limitation of ChatGPT, but it is also the limitation of inputs. At the same time, the tool is a self-learning tool. Yeah. So the more people seek information from it, the more accurate it will become. So at the moment, I feel that its role of artificial intelligence is only in assisting doctors in making diagnoses or getting to some conclusions. But for patients to self-manage based on ChatGPT is a little risky at the moment.
Do you see a lot of patients coming to you after looking at what ChatGPT is telling them? Do you have to face those challenges of telling them that this is not entirely correct and I'm going to tell you what is important?
Yeah, I am not in clinical practice at the moment, so I don't have personal experience like that, but I do keep hearing all the time that this happens, people come with their symptoms. But an aware patient is always better than a patient who is not aware. So I don't think it is a negative that people are doing research on their symptoms on Google and ChatGPT or whatever other tools they might use, because that means they are taking care of their health and wellness becomes an important part of that. Right. So I think an aware patient is a better patient.
Okay. Dr. Raghuvanshi, also, a wellness-driven approach, does it work for big hospitals like yours? Because a lot of it is dependent on patients who are ill, who have these severe illnesses. How has it worked for Fortis Healthcare, the shift of going to preventive healthcare from something like, just say, that was centered around illnesses?
So it is not binary that you do preventive care or you do only curative care. Both the areas are equally important. And both will be required. As I was saying earlier, that preventive care has been there for a long time, but it has to become more focused. I think both have to be done. For private setups, it is a challenge to decide because there are commercial interests, etc. However, it is a moral and social imperative on the healthcare industry. Unfortunately, we call ourselves healthcare industry, but we only focus on illness. That should not be the case. We should be focusing on good health.
That's very important. Focus on good health and wellness. While we wrap out of this conversation, we look forward to a 5-part healthcare series featuring Fortis Healthcare on NDTV soon. Here's a look at this partnership which promises to decode the evolving healthcare sector where prevention is no longer a choice. It is a necessity and wellness is priority, like Dr. Raghuvanshi also said. Let's have the logo now. Dr. Raghuvanshi, what are your thoughts on this logo and on this partnership? And also, something, a collaboration like this, how important do you think it is for the realm of preventive healthcare?
No, this is extremely important. I think NDTV has been the path breaker. We had earlier a relationship on the organ donation for many, many years. And I think this relationship will continue. I think media's role is very, very important. It brings it into the focus, and it is the information which is reliable information. So that makes it even more valuable.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Mainstream media is a reliable source of information, and like Dr. Raghuvanshi says, that one has to be really careful when it comes to tools which are still evolving. As we close this conversation, one thing is clear: healthcare is no longer about hospitals, but it's about habits. Fortis Healthcare, in collaboration with NDTV, brings you a 5-part healthcare series that unpacks this evolution from illness to wellness, from reactive to preventive. Join us as we decode how India's healthcare is not just healing lives, but also empowering them.
It's the biggest event that markets and economy are looking at. A possible trade deal between India and the United States, which we could hear about any time soon. It will create a seismic shift in the way these two countries trade with each other. Who is going to come out on top of these hectic negotiations? Stay ahead on the story. Catch all the breaking news and the analysis only on NDTV Profit.
Imports become the exception rather than the norm, and increasingly we do almost, last year for example, of the contracts that we signed of record 2,09,000 crores, 81% was awarded to the domestic industry. Our intent is to manufacture in India, preferably with design also in India.
I am so elated to be on the same screen as the Defense Secretary, and I get a chance to talk about what he said.
In certain areas, like for example, artillery guns and armored vehicles, or in some categories of missiles like the BrahMos and the Akash, we've come of age.
What Defense Secretary sir said is 100% true, and today private industry can really increase their involvement in R&D.
I am very proud to say that we make, in our categories that we have been supplying to our defense forces, some of the best platforms in the world.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market mover.
In today's fast-paced world, stress has become a part of our daily lives. Deadlines, personal expectations, family responsibilities. We all deal with pressure, but the important question is, When does daily stress stop being normal and become a serious mental health concern? आज हम बात करेंगे कि मानसिक स्वास्थ्य के संकेतों को कैसे पहचाना जाए और कब ये सिर्फ थकान या तनाव नहीं बल्कि एक गंभीर समस्या बन जाती है. And also, when should we seek help and from whom? Joining me is Dr. Sameer Parekh, Director, Department of Mental Health Fortis, Dr. Bhavak Garg, Associate Professor and Senior Consultant Psychiatrist, और Dr. Manushree Gupta, Senior Consultant Psychiatrist. आप सभी लोगों का स्वागत इस मंच पर. Let me begin with you, Dr. Parekh. We all feel stressed at times. When should we start feeling concerned about it and that level of stress is not the usual daily routine stress?
No, I think two aspects to this. Stress is a part of everyday living. It's not possible not to experience some kind of stress related to something or the other. I mean, we are sitting here having a conversation. I mean, I need to have enough stress to have enough focus right now to prepare for it. You would have had your preparation. If you're not stressed enough to plan and prepare, you wouldn't do well. But if you're so stressed that your mind numbs, you aren't able to think, you have a blackout, you fumble, that also is a problem. But stress is a part of our life. चाहे वो हमारा personal relationships हो, workplace हो, academic हो, रोजमर्रा की hassles हो, stress जिंदगी का हिस्सा है. The difference is we all need to have the right kind of coping skills to be able to deal with this stress. ये एक हिस्सा हुआ कि हम अपनी coping skills को इस तरह से रखें कि रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी के stress को manage कर सकें. और वही mental health है. Mental health is recognizing your strengths and being able to deal with the daily stresses of life. On the other side are mental illnesses. And it's important to see them as two different parts. Mental illness, like any other illness,
Physical
needs
illness,
to be treated like how you would treat any illness. You go to an expert, you take medications, therapy, lifestyle, whatever is involved. And for stress, you continue to evolve, learn, be open. And those are the two ways you need to look at it.
बिल्कुल. अब डॉक्टर गर्ग, हम सब ये जानना चाहेंगे कि जो अर्ली स्पेसिफिक वार्निंग साइंस हैं, शायद यहाँ हॉल में मौजूद सभी लोगों को ये जानना ज़रूरी भी है, वो क्या हो सकते हैं जिसके बाद हमको चिंता करनी चाहिए?
Like sir said, that stress is a part of everyday life, and we call that as eustress. And the stress, when it goes beyond the abilities of a person, the abilities till the time the person is able to cope, then it becomes distress. So you means good and dis means bad. So all of us, we need that stress to function properly. Till the time we have eustress, our performance becomes optimal. But when it becomes distress, it goes beyond the coping abilities or skills, then it leads to impairment in the functioning. And this is what is most important for us. For us mental health professionals, for us psychiatrists, any kind of dysfunction, be it social or occupational, सामाजिक और व्यावसायिक जीवन पे जब बुरा असर पड़ने लगे, इंसान अपने रिश्ते नहीं निभा पाए, बाहर जाने से कतराने लगे, avoiding meeting people, going to various gatherings and parties, occupational dysfunction होने लगे, काम में efficiency poor हो जाए, absenteeism from workplace, और students के case में academic performance decline होने लगे, right? So when these things happen, then we say that it is now amounting to possibly a mental health issue or a mental health disorder. It's beyond the normal stress of life. Similarly, जो warning signs की अगर हम बात करें, so they will also occur on a spectrum. हम जब stress में होते हैं, तनाव में होते हैं, so earliest thing that usually happens with us is our sleep gets disturbed. Or there may be changes in our appetite. कई बार भूख ज़्यादा लगने लगती है, कई बार भूख कम लगने लगती है. लंबे समय तक हो, there can be changes in weight. छोटी छोटी बातों पे we start getting irritable. बहुत जल्दी चिड़चिड़ापन होने लग जाता है. कोई कुछ भी कहे, we snap very quickly, we reply back harshly, or we are not able to comprehend a situation. Suddenly going blank. Conversation में हम involved है, suddenly our mind may wander. We get distracted very easily. So these are some signs which show that there is some mental health stress, irritability, impairment in sleep, change in appetite patterns, change in weight, snapping easily, right? So all these are indicators or early warning signs of stress. But at the same time, again a word of caution, just having these does not mean कि mental health disorder, mental health issue हो गया है. Only if they are present, which comes to the second part of how we define a mental health issue or a mental disorder, if it becomes persistent and pervasive. जब ये ज़्यादातर दिनों के लिए ज़्यादातर समय रहने लगे ये लक्षण, then we call it as a mental disorder, and we have different classificatory ways जिसमें duration defined है. For example, for depression it's 2 weeks, for mania it's 1 week, and so on and so forth. Right. So early warning signs. Yes, there is possible stress. Something needs to be done. Maybe lifestyle modification, venting out, talking to your friends, to your neighbors, to your relatives, to your work colleagues. If it becomes persistent, pervasive, and leading to social and occupational dysfunction, then possibly professional help is required.
Talking about the early signs of stress, and we are seeing nowadays the younger generation, the school-going children are facing these issues. We really want to know what role can parents and teachers play in identifying the stress, the issues with the child is facing at a very early stage.
Parenting, yes, and I'm glad you spoke about young children. So it's been known since last 20 years or so through a robust body of evidence, such studies which have been carried out over 50 years, 60 years. They have identified parenting as the most important risk factor for somebody to get mental illness later in life. So we don't emphasize parenting enough, and we are all at sea how to do this job very well. So parenting skills, parenting workshop is very important. And similarly, teachers in later part of childhood become proxy parents. When the child starts to withdraw from his immediate parents, the parental figure, teachers are the next important figure in anybody's life. So it cannot be overemphasized that parents in early childhood and school teachers in later childhood play a very important role in the identification of stress, mental health issues in young children. Now, it has been known for some time that early childhood adversity, any kind of trauma, any kind of abuse, like for example, bullying in school, or any kind of physical or sexual abuse that a child may go through at home or school, is a very important risk factor for mental illness. So when we say how to identify, of course, in young children, the primary marker that has been understood is a fall in academic performance. We often emphasize how the child is doing academically at school. So one of the first markers of any kind of adversity is fall in academic performance. And then similarly, the children are not very good at articulating their stress, their inner emotions. So we gain much information by observing, by free play, right? So how the child is reacting to his immediate peers, maybe his friends, if he or she is undergoing any kind of withdrawal, any kind of social withdrawal, he has become irritable, or he has become aggressive or violent with maybe his toys or his peers. That may be one of the first signs of any kind of stress in the child. Right. Thank you.
Dr. Parekh, जो बात यहाँ पर कही जा रही है कि जो ट्रिगर पॉइंट्स हो सकते हैं या फिर अर्ली साइंस हो सकते हैं, यहाँ ये समझना ज़रूरी है कि अर्ली चाइल्डहुड में अगर किसी तरह का पैटर्न देखा गया, क्या वो तुरंत रिफ्लेक्ट करता है या फिर आपके अडल्ट लाइफ में वो आगे जाके कभी रिफ्लेक्ट कर सकता है? बिल्कुल, हमारी ज़िंदगी में जो एक्सपीरियंसेस हैं, स्वाभाविक है कि वो हमारे जीवन भर हम पे असर करते हैं, खास करके बोथ पॉजिटिव एंड नेगेटिव. और मुझे लगता है क्योंकि सबकी ज़िंदगी में किसी न किसी तरह की परेशानियाँ आती हैं, स्मूथ लाइफ इज़ नॉट पॉसिबल. कैसे मुमकिन है? मुझे लगता है कि सोल्यूशन की बात हमें ज़्यादा करनी चाहिए, और मेरा ऐसा मानना है कि स्कूलों में मेंटल हेल्थ करिकुलम होना ही होना चाहिए. मतलब ये नॉन नेगोशिएबल है. और मेंटल हेल्थ करिकुलम टीचरों के माध्यम से होना चाहिए, विच मीन्स टीचर्स की ट्रेनिंग हो ऑन मेंटल हेल्थ. बेसिक चीज़ें, अर्ली आइडेंटिफिकेशन, लैंग्वेज, स्टिग्मा, वेलबींग, कोपिंग स्किल्स, किस तरह से आप क्लासरूम को एक आइडियल एनवायरनमेंट बनाइए. देखिए, आप ऐसे समझिए, एक क्लासरूम भी एक छोटा सा एनवायरनमेंट है. अगर आप हर क्लासरूम के एनवायरनमेंट को पॉजिटिव करते हैं तो स्कूल पॉजिटिव होता है, सारे स्कूलों को करते हैं. दैट्स हाउ द सोशल पॉजिटिविटी आएगी. ये तो आएगी नहीं कि कहीं पे हमने यहाँ कुछ कर लिया, वहाँ कुछ कर लिया. सो मेंटल हेल्थ करिकुलम होना ही चाहिए. दूसरी बात मुझे लगता है कि मीडिया लिटरेसी, ये समय आ गया है कि मीडिया लिटरेसी के बारे में बहुत स्ट्रांगली काम करना चाहिए स्कूलों में, खास करके. एक इतना इंट्रूसिव, नॉन स्टॉप
एक्सपोजर है वेरियस फॉर्म्स ऑफ मीडिया का कि अगर हम बच्चों को ये काबिलियत नहीं देंगे, स्किल नहीं देंगे, हाउ टू नेविगेट एंड बी लिटरेट टू डू. और तीसरा, पिकिंग अप फ्रॉम व्हाट मानुषी आल्सो सेड, इस बुलिंग पे काम करना ज़रूरी है. एविडेंस है कि बुलिंग एक सिग्निफिकेंट फैक्टर है अडल्ट लाइफ मेंटल कंडीशंस के लिए. तो अगर हम इन 3 चीज़ों पे भी अगर काम करना शुरू करें, आने वाले दशक में हम काम करें इसके ऊपर, तो जब हम एजुकेशन पॉलिसी की बात करते हैं तो बिना मेंटल हेल्थ के तो कोई पॉलिसी हो ही नहीं सकती है.
बिल्कुल.
अभी हम प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ की बात करते हैं तो बिना मेंटल हेल्थ के प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ नहीं हो सकता. हम हेल्थ की बात करते हैं, बिना मेंटल हेल्थ के हेल्थ नहीं हो सकता. जितने लोग यहाँ बैठे हैं, जो बाकी सुन भी रहे हैं, आप हेल्थ डिफाइन करिए और हेल्थ डिफाइन इस तरह से करके दिखाइए, डेयर है, जहाँ पे मेंटल हेल्थ का जिक्र ना हो. आप बोल नहीं पाएंगे, कंप्लीट नहीं कर पाएंगे हेल्थ को. जिस चीज़ के बिना हेल्थ नहीं है उस पर हमारा कितना एम्फेसिस है, चाहे वो हेल्थ केयर प्रोवाइडर्स हों, चाहे एजुकेशन हो, चाहे वर्क प्लेस हो, पॉलिसी मेकर्स हो, मीडिया हो. ऑल ऑफ अस नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड कि हमें स्टेक होल्डर बनने की ज़रूरत है. खाली ये जो थोड़े बहुत एक्सपर्ट्स हैं, इनसे नहीं हो पाएगा. एडवोकेसी की ज़रूरत है और उसके लिए एवरी पर्सन हैज़ टू बिकम अ मेंटल हेल्थ एडवोकेट.
Every day is a mental health day, and the mantra is unmute yourself, talk to people, don't be limited to your rooms and your digital devices. Thank you so much for this great conversation, and this conversation should carry on beyond this platform too.
It's the biggest event that markets and economy are looking at. A possible trade deal between India and the United States, which we could hear about any time soon. It will create a seismic shift in the way these two countries trade with each other. Who is going to come out on top of these hectic negotiations? Stay ahead on the story. Catch all the breaking news and the analysis only on NDTV Profit.
Imports become the exception rather than the norm, and increasingly we do almost last year, for example, of the contracts that we signed of record 2,09,000 crores, 81% was awarded to the domestic industry. Our intent is to manufacture in India, preferably with design also in India.
I am so elated to be on the same screen as the Defense Secretary, and I get a chance to talk about what he said.
In certain areas, like for example, artillery guns and armored vehicles, or in some categories of missiles like the BrahMos and the Akash, we've come of age.
What Defense Secretary sir said is 100% true, and today private industry can really increase their involvement in R&D.
I am very proud to say that we make, in our categories that we have been supplying to our defense forces, some of the best platforms in the world.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola? Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
imports become the exception.
Innovation, access and partnerships as India aspires to build a truly inclusive healthcare system. The future of health equity lies at the intersection of innovation, accessibility and strong partnerships. India must reimagine healthcare delivery models that are not only cost-effective, but also equitable, ensuring that no one is left behind on the path to a healthier nation. On my panel today to talk about this very, very important issue, especially if we talk about Viksit Bharat 2047, we have Dr. N.K. Arora, Executive Director, the Inclin Trust International, Dr. Shekhar C. Mande, former DG, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, Dr. Samir Gupta, Senior Cardiologist and Director, Metro Group of Hospitals, and Annapurna Das, General Manager, Takeda Biopharmaceuticals India Private Limited. Thank you so much all for joining us on this very important issue. And Dr. Arora, I'd like to start with you first. If you could explain to us when we talk about equitable health, what does this mean in the Indian context and what kind of a role can technology play in this?
So, thank you very much for inviting. Equity, the true meaning of equity actually is reflected in healthcare and how, and I must also say that India's immunization program also is an example how equity can be achieved, and equity can be achieved very well. I mean, just to give an example, that today 93% of our children are fully immunized, and about 6% children who are left, particularly only 3%. Now, that is an example that every child has to be reached for immunization. And you ask, so that's how I define that anybody who requires health care has access and able to not only access, but able to utilize the services. As far as technology is concerned, I think technology is most efficient way of achieving equity in our kind of setups, which has got a very heterogeneous population groups, very diverse geographical aspects and distances. So technology will not only help us achieve equity, but two other things also come with that. Technology helps us to achieve accountability also. And the third dimension is, which was just mentioned, that technology also allows the access to those aspects of healthcare which are normally even not dreamt of. So if I want a super specialist, how do I reach somebody who is in the remote Arunachal village? So technology is the answer and is the cheapest way of quickly achieving or scaling up our equity efforts.
All right, and you know, India should be able to use technology better and better. Earlier we heard the minister also talking about, you know, AI centers that have been set up in the previous panel as well. They spoke about how AI is being used, you know, for to health even at the rural level. Annapurna Das, next question to you. And you know, we've been talking a lot about partnerships and how they can help in this journey of better health for our public. So if you could tell us more about, you know, how you know, partnerships can increase access to healthcare in India.
I think talking about equitable access, I think what's important to realize that achieving health equity is a collective responsibility. I think what it makes that as Takeda, we are forging strategic partnerships which are primarily aligned to the national priorities with the healthcare ecosystem priorities. You know, access to medicine, if as a global pharmaceutical player, is core to our core business strategy. And we primarily work that all our medicines, vaccines are made accessible. We can broaden access to the most people who needs them the most. You know, what Dr. Arora was talking about, that people who need it the most, you know. Fundamentally, I think we work with three pillars. Number one, innovate to impact. Number two, which is sustainable access. And number three, which is health system strengthening. Now, if you look at all of this, you can blend different models of partnerships, which can be cost-based partnerships, joint funding in innovation, it can be manufacturing partnerships. So there are different models of partnership. One of the things that we believe is, that I believe that would be very helpful is working with state governments, state health departments to increase the capacity for clinicians to diagnose, but as well as treat non-communicable diseases and vector-borne disease. I think that's fundamental, that how you can drive the kind of community. The other piece, the last piece here, is the community-centric approaches. Fundamentally, when access programs are designed with inputs from community, they are far more inclusive, they lead to better outcomes. And that's what our learning. So I'll sum up by saying that partnerships are not enablers. They are just so fundamental to drive the equitable access in a country like ours.
Well, thank you so much. You recounted about so many examples that have worked, and that's what really we need right now to show, that how things are working on the ground. And that brings us to policy. And Dr. Mande, if you could talk a bit about, how we can ensure that we have the correct policies, because what we need is more innovation. And we need innovation that will help, rural parts of the country, underserved parts of the country as well. So how can, be it state governments, be at the central level, how can we help, push for those policies that will create this innovation and technology that can give more equitable health?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me here. That's a very important question. If we talk of innovation, we see innovation at all levels across the country, in rural areas, in remote areas, in urban areas, in our households. Everywhere there are signs of innovation that are all the time. What our mothers do essentially all day are trying to innovate on their own to make the household very livable and very pleasant. The tech-led innovation is essentially using the technologies, and a larger section of society can benefit by those. By that kind of innovation actually is what we believe would eventually drive the society forward. Now, the first sign of this we actually started seeing some years ago, when institutions such as different IITs and all took the lead and gave some space to the youngsters. For example, IIT Madras, IIT Bombay and all, they set up these technology parks and gave space to youngsters to try out their ideas in scaling up their innovations. Right? That's the key issue. The policy framework for that at that particular point of time did not exist, but soon what was followed was something like Startup India policy and things like that. They came in the last few years. Now, the government's role in this is multifold in promoting innovation. Number one, government creates appropriate infrastructure for anyone to come and use. For example, government, in the very larger sense, for example, government lays down power lines, government makes roads, and things like that. But the second thing, when people want to test out their ideas for scaling up and going to an industrial scale, government actually should stay out of it. Now, one of the major policies of government to actually stay out of that, so when kids are coming out of our academic institutes, say IITs, NITs, universities, colleges, these kids are bubbling with ideas. And they actually want to try out their ideas and try to see whether these ideas can be scaled up and a larger society can benefit. And that's exactly where the government actually should step back. It should promote the early ideas by providing certain kind of funds and all, but not regulate those ideas. And
so
if our policymakers
give them a push, but not go,
that's right. Not have any extensive regulations in governing those ideas and innovations at all. So that would be actually a major role for the government to play.
All right, so that's a very interesting point that you made there. Dr. Gupta, coming to you, you're a doctor, you run a hospital as well. So if you could, we're talking about, public-private partnerships, if you could talk about examples that you've seen or where you feel, this could help in terms of, diagnostics and other hospitals as well.
Absolutely. So let me first begin by saying that, for our, the dream of our country is Viksit Bharat, right? 2047, we have to be a developed nation. And I just want to put it out there, we cannot be a wealthy nation if you're not a healthy nation. So health is of paramount importance, and I want to congratulate everyone for bringing up this panel and talking about health, which is a very neglected subject in general. Talking about public-private partnerships, it is, it's kind of an innovation in the healthcare delivery model, right? Traditionally, if you have to build up a hospital, if you want to deliver healthcare, you buy a piece of land, then you construct a hospital on top of that, and then you deliver, you put in manpower and the patients come and that's how traditionally things work. Public-private partnerships come in different flavors, right? Either the government gives you subsidized land, or they give you a pre-established hospital, which is existing, or for that matter, a diagnostic center or whatever. They give you, either they give you a land on which, at a discounted rate or a free rate, whatever, and you construct a hospital on top of that and then deliver healthcare. Or they give you a half-made hospital or a hospital which is not optimally functioning, and then you come in as a private partner and deliver healthcare over there, and then in lieu of this services that you've been given, the land or the building that you've been given, you give a discounted or free healthcare to a certain percentage of the patients who come to the hospital. So that's usually how private partnerships work.
Yes, that's how it works.
Now, public-private partnerships also play a very important role in healthcare education, right? One of the biggest challenges we face in healthcare in India is manpower. We don't either have good manpower or we don't have enough number of manpower. And, the government is now coming up with different schemes. I saw some policy work coming out of Uttar Pradesh, where the government is saying that all the district hospitals, we will convert them into medical colleges. And subsequently, we will have so many more medical colleges. The number of the patient-doctor ratio in India, which has scope for improvement, that can be increased, and the quality of that district hospital will in turn also improve, because now there's a medical college over there, there will be better doctors, there will be better staff over there, etc. So I think public-private partnership is a very important and a very key role if we have to get healthcare delivery and equity for all, as was discussed.
It's the biggest event that markets and economy are looking at. A possible trade deal between India and the United States, which we could hear about any time soon. It will create a seismic shift in the way these two countries trade with each other. Who is going to come out on top of these hectic negotiations? Stay ahead on the story. Catch all the breaking news and the analysis only on NDTV Profit.
Imports become the exception rather than the norm, and increasingly we do almost, last year for example, of the contracts that we signed of record 2,09,000 crores, 81% was awarded to the domestic industry. Our intent is to manufacture in India, preferably with design also in India.
I am so elated to be on the same screen as the Defense Secretary, and I get a chance to talk about what he said.
In certain areas, like for example, artillery guns and armored vehicles, or in some categories of missiles like the BrahMos and the Akash, we've come of age.
What Defense Secretary Sir said is 100% true, and today private industry can really increase their involvement in R&D.
I am very proud to say that we make, in our categories that we have been supplying to our defense forces, some of the best platforms in the world.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola? Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live.
I'd like to come back to you, Dr. Arora. We're talking about, how we can have healthcare for all, how we can, use public-private partnerships. What are the obstacles that you see? And earlier during the sessions, we spoke about how certain doctors have, gone and worked with tribals, gone and worked in rural parts, but that is their own personal mission. How can we have more of that? What are the obstacles in, ensuring health for rural India, for tribal India?
One of the major at the moment roadblock is the shortage of manpower. And if I give you the figures, it's mind-boggling. In next 20 years or so, we are talking about 2047, we require 30 lakh more doctors. The second is nurses. About 80 lakh nurses, 50 to 80 lakh nurses and other paramedical. Therefore, the shortage is huge. Today, if I look around the whole country, every state health department has 40 to 50% deficiencies. Even medical colleges getting teachers.
As large as that?
As large as that.
Wow.
So that is something, therefore, we have to bring in innovation in terms of skilling our manpower and get them. So this is a huge area where opportunities exist. The whole concept of digital health has come in, that we are talking about Aadhaar ID. That means we have electronic health records of every individual, issues of confidentiality, issues of maintaining the data is properly used. But the most important is once Aadhaar ID and its usage is there, it should be available right up to the level of health and wellness centers, which we call Ayushman Arogya Mandis these days. So technology here is again important, that we need to have the improvement in the quality of data so that we can use.
That's a very interesting example you gave, and where there's some lacuna and maybe there's there has to be a push for improvement there. But taking from what you spoke about AI, Ms. Das, if you could tell us how Takeda uses AI and what is the long-term plan?
Yeah, so probably I think from the digital technologies or AI is transforming, particularly from making it very personalized, patient-centric, and accessible. For a global biopharma like Takeda, I think what we focus on integrating it across channels, okay, so that we can, whether it's for its internal and external stakeholders as well as for HCPs and patients. I think one of the things, maybe I'll quickly give you two examples. I think the focus is for HCP engagement and education. If you see that, I think what happens, like if AI is able to really give personalized HCP specialty and profile-based evidence to the physicians. It is also, I think, the predictive analytics that you do is able to give the progress of the disease. And as a result, the clinical decisions can be made with that help. This is one big area where we work, and we have tied up with Salesforce, I think, to bring a life science cloud-based model, which gives the AI agents and AI analytics so that the physician, there is a real-time streamlined interactions between physicians with commercial teams, with patient support teams. I think this is a major shift in how AI being used.
Right.
The other big area is, of course, patient education and patient support. I think this is what the technology plays a role. So I'll give you just one example here. It can be for faster diagnosis. It is for giving better treatment outcomes. So we are working on something, an AI-enabled app for IBD. Okay, so if you know that, which is kind of heavy, this is a disease, and this would help patients to really track their symptoms, okay? Kind of also track their relapse, help them get counseling, get them support. I think as a result of AI and technology, I think it kind of brings the provider and the patients together for that support. I think that there are multiple examples. At the end of the day, the objective is to create that faster, accessible of these treatments to the patients to improve their quality of life. That's most important.
All right, and earlier on, Dr. Mande, I want to come to you. We were speaking about how the burden of disease is shifting from infectious to lifestyle disease as well. So how does this affect our, if we're talking about health equity agenda, how does this change, impact that?
Yeah, indeed, the burden of disease is dramatically changing in the last 20 years from communicable to non-communicable or lifestyle kind of diseases. We also heard in the morning in the panel that even rural areas, this kind of scenario is changing very rapidly. Now, we have already touched upon AI, right? That's one equalizer, the democratizer of all kinds of processes. So for example, when Mr. Jensen Huang was here in India 4 or 5 years ago, he gave a talk in Vigyan Bhavan, and he talked about how AI is rapidly democratizing all processes related to our common endeavor, financial markets or the trade or whatever that we talk of, and health is not very far behind. And that's one way to go forward, that how AI very quickly, we adapt AI into our healthcare system is actually our immediate goal to do that, what we should be doing. Now, Dr. Arora very rightly pointed out that most of the data that exists on different kinds of disorders is actually borrowed from the West at the moment from India. So we don't really know the basal parameters of whom we call healthy, whom actually we say that certain kind of disorder exists in that person. And that kind of data needs to be generated in India very, very rapidly. And wherever data that exists on today's date is on different formats in different places, so it cannot be integrated that very easily. And if we were to develop our own AI models or large language models or something based on this particular data, it should be our urgent necessity to actually get all these data accessible to our AI community, make it accessible, make it uniform, and make sure that this data can be used very meaningfully for the future of the healthcare.
All right, and clearly there is a need, and for this, we're a young country, we have such a, a burgeoning young population. Hopefully they can be encouraged to think on these lines of innovation. We all talk about startups. Dr. Gupta, anything you'd like to add to that, and where you feel, we need more innovations and how they could help in this Viksit Bharat 2047?
Absolutely. So, we were talking about AI, so I'll just talk two minutes about that. AI is the buzzword, right? Like Sir just said that, from trading to everything else, AI is being... So I think...
So we don't want people to go to AI for their consultancy as well. There's a lot of misinformation also.
Absolutely. So I think AI is what you feed in is what you get out.
Yes.
And that's how AI works. And that's what Sir said, that, what the data that is required to train those models is very important. But, with the various initiatives of our country of getting Abha ID and all the other the digital health missions, hopefully this will all be successful, and we'll have a lot of data that can be fed into for predictive analytics, right? Previously, if you think how the car would function, right? Previously, 20 years ago, you would have a car and you would take it for servicing when it would go bad. Then they started coming out with data. You know what? Every 1,000 kilometers, go get the tire pressure checked. Every X amount of kilometers, get the engine oil changed. So prediction started coming into the picture from data. So similarly, can we reach a stage where we can predict that this person has X, Y, and Z things? Can we predict that this guy is going to get this X illness? So can we do something to prevent that illness from happening before it has happened?
Preventive health, what we were talking about
Preventive
earlier.
health.
Yes.
And, AI, I don't think is going to, in healthcare per se, which is so sensitive, so important, I don't foresee it taking away jobs. I see it as your co-pilot. Like when you're driving a plane, there is an autopilot, there is a pilot, and then there is a co-pilot. I think AI is going to be your co-pilot. And I'll give you a small example. I'm a cardiologist, right? So I'm doing angiographies, angioplasties, and all those things. And that there is this technology we use called OCT, which is for improving your imaging during the procedure. And we would do that imaging first, and whatever data, the images that would come out, you would analyze it yourself, and you would make treatment recommendations. And that analysis would take a couple of minutes. So, this technology is AI is going to be your co-pilot in your journey of treating patients.
All right, that's very interesting. So nothing to be, scared of. It's how we use it really and use it to benefit our people. Thank you so much. We're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us on this panel and talking about this, about a Viksit 2047, equitable health for all. Hopefully that dream can actually come true. Thank you.
It's the biggest event that markets and economy are looking at. A possible trade deal between India and the United States, which we could hear about any time soon. It will create a seismic shift in the way these two countries trade with each other. Who is going to come out on top of these hectic negotiations? Stay ahead on the story. Catch all the breaking news and the analysis only on NDTV Profit.
Imports become the exception rather than the norm, and increasingly we do almost, last year for example, of the contracts that we signed of record 2,09,000 crores, 81% was awarded to the domestic industry. Our intent is to manufacture in India, preferably with design also in India.
I am so elated to be on the same screen as the Defense Secretary, and I get a chance to talk about what he said.
In certain areas, like for example, artillery guns and armored vehicles, or in some categories of missiles like the BrahMos and the Akash, we've come of age.
What Defense Secretary Sir said is 100% true, and today private industry can really increase their involvement in R&D.
I am very proud to say that we make, in our categories that we have been supplying to our defense forces, some of the best platforms in the world.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola? Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
Imports become the exception.
Hello and welcome to VoiceWhat presents The Great Business Story, Transforming India in association with NDTV Profit. Imagine living in a world where you can access anything from anywhere without worrying about malware attacks or cyber threats. That's where Zscaler comes into the picture. Zscaler basically is a cloud-based security company that protects and helps users, applications and devices from any kind of cyber threats. Today I'm in conversation with Jay Chaudhary, CEO, Chairman and Founder at Zscaler, and also Adam Geller, who's a Chief Product Officer at Zscaler. Welcome to the conversation, gentlemen. My first question to you, Jay, would be, how has Zscaler's India business transformed since the time of its inception?
When I started, I did not think that India will be a sizable market for selling cybersecurity products and services. And it was slow. So we were very happy with the services India delivered for building products. But about 4 or 5 years ago, we start to see some of these large corporations of India, some of the largest banks, some of these large global system integrators. They all start to become very conscious of security needs. So our business in India has grown significantly. We actually have India as the 5th largest country by revenue around the globe.
Help us understand Zscaler's zero trust model and how is it different from traditional network models that already exist in the market?
I started Zscaler with the notion that in this new world of cloud and mobility, you can't do security with firewalls and VPNs. Let's look at it totally differently. We came up with a zero trust architecture. Okay. And this architecture means do not trust anyone. A user is untrusted. We built a switchboard, an exchange, almost like an old school phone switchboard. A user comes to us, we check the credentials, then a connection gets made to an application, one application at a time. So there's no way for bad guys to come in, get into your corporate network, and infect everything. It's a very different way of doing things, very simple way of doing things. And that's all it took for me to get moving. Then large companies like General Electric, Schneider, National, all these companies became our customers, and the world started to move. The biggest thing Zero Trust Security is doing is helping enterprises protect against ransomware attacks and all other attacks. We are approaching $3 billion in ARR, which is annual recurring revenues. Over 45% of Fortune 500 companies. So very proud of serving these corporations and agencies because cyber is so critical.
Let's take you into the conversation, Adam. How does Zscaler ensure that security is easily accessible to the end consumer without much friction being experienced in the process?
The key to being able to do that is to have the right technology approach and to be able to be applied in the right points of communication between the users, the applications, and their data. And at Zscaler, we can do that very seamlessly. We do have agent capability, so an agent or a piece of software that we can install on a user's end computer to make that experience very smooth. And we also have ways to operate when we can't install an agent where it's still a quite common or smooth experience for the user as well.
Jay, tell us what makes Zscaler unique today and how do you exactly deploy Zscaler in remote working conditions?
In the Zscaler Zero Trust world, you simply connect them through our switchboard service, and your suppliers can only access an application, and your partner can access another application. So the model works seamlessly for not just your employees, but your partners who are working remotely or wherever they are.
Please walk us through how Zscaler Private Access and Zscaler Internet Access work. We understand security as an umbrella concept, but what are the nitty-gritties of security problems that you guys solve?
Zscaler Internet Access, or ZIA, is designed to help connect users to typically public-facing applications, so things that would be on the internet. When you make those kinds of connections, what ZIA does is, again, first it understands who the user is, so it's always first principle is knowing who the identity is, and does my organization want to allow a user to access a particular application or site. Again, understanding the posture of the device, so that helps us know the risk. Is this going to be a risky communication or not? We also have the ability to then protect against malicious content, so malware or viruses that the user might unintentionally be downloading from the internet. So ZIA is effectively designed for that kind of access for users to internet and common and public SaaS applications.
When you say Zscaler is a cloud-based security company, what does that exactly mean? If you could categorize the security problems that you solve, that would really help us understand what Zscaler exactly does.
The way we deliver our security capabilities, our inspection capabilities and policy enforcement, we deliver that all through a service that we run in over 150 different data centers around the world, including about 15 locations within India itself, via a cloud service, because it's closer to the destinations that people are trying to get to. It also becomes much easier to scale as your organizations grow. It took advantage of the elastic nature of the way the cloud works or cloud computing works.
Scalability is one key advantage if you compare it with traditional network security models.
The scalability and the ability to dynamically scale very quickly without having to go acquire lots of additional hardware, provision, and deploy that. I think the other piece that's very important is cloud services are able to be updated and maintained much more easily as well. Every large bank, every financial services, pharmaceuticals, everyone is adopting this because they understand that this is the go-forward approach that will make their operational lives easier and give them the best chance at securing their organizations.
How does Zscaler navigate through AI-driven cyber threats, 5G networks, and also the expanding attack surface of Internet of Things?
Network technologies may keep on changing. It's transparent to Zscaler. You can use Zscaler service over Starlinks as well. So network, no changes. Then there are other technologies like AI. Companies like Zscaler, who have lots of data, can actually find things, find infected machines, and find things hidden inside the corporate applications a lot more quickly. We have every day with 500 billion transactions. And with those logs, we can get all the reconnaissance information, we can find all the bad guys who are trying to come in, and it's Gen AI and traditional AI, that combination of the two is helping us find things. In fact, we are developing a new service called Breach Prediction. Imagine if I could tell a customer that you're likely to get breached before the breach happens. That's a panacea. That's the kind of power that AI and Gen AI brings to us. Most of the Zscaler customers are very progressive, they're thought leaders, and they're far safer than customers who are depending upon old firewall-based technology.
How Zscaler incorporates ZPA, and tell us how it works.
ZPA, or Zscaler Private Access, that's focused on organizations that have their own applications that they run, and it could be in their own data centers or in public cloud, but they need to provide access to those to business partners or their employees. And so ZPA is a really creative way to expose those applications, but only to trusted users, because these applications very often are very sensitive, they have important data for an organization, and you need to provide access, but you don't want just anybody on the internet to be able to find those applications. The creative approach of Zscaler Private Access is that it actually hides the application from the internet, so you can't see it. And one of the things we like to say is you can't attack what you can't see. And so it's a creative tagline, but it's actually very appropriate to describe how ZPA works.
Zscaler, as a cloud-based security company, how are you taking use of artificial intelligence? How exactly are you incorporating into your various functionalities? And talk about machine learning as well. And take us through the exact way you incorporate these two great important factors into the functionalities of Zscaler.
We have AI-based recommendation engines that will watch all of the traffic and then build a proposed policy structure for an organization to say, if you want to build a secure connection path for only these users to the right applications, we can analyze all of those traffic flows and then make those recommendations for you. We use it heavily in our data protection business. So using machine learning to do classification of documents. So we'll be able to see and read documents and decide, is this a financial document? Not only is it a financial document, but is it a tax or a mortgage document? And that way you can then apply policies to say, should this be a document that should be moving in or out of the organization? Or even does that document have personally identifiable information, which makes it very sensitive, so then the policy could change altogether then as well.
And Jay, I'd also like to ask you, what is your vision towards expanding Zscaler in India, and what's the future outlook of the company that you're foreseeing for Zscaler?
We have plans to reach all parts of India. Then we are working with central government of India. Now we are also trying to work with various state governments. State governments need cybersecurity. That's how we can reach to various parts of India, because they may not have big corporations, but everyone needs to work with the local and state governments. Everyone deals with some of these small business entities.
Well, I think we look forward to that kind of expansion, and we wish you all the best. And thank you so much, Adam and Jay, for joining us in this conversation and giving us a sneak peek into how the company operates. And we look forward to seeing a lot more from Zscaler. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's the biggest event that markets and economy are looking at. A possible trade deal between India and the United States, which we could hear about any time soon. It will create a seismic shift in the way these two countries trade with each other. Who is going to come out on top of these hectic negotiations? Stay ahead on the story. Catch all the breaking news and the analysis only on NDTV Profit.
Imports become the exception rather than the norm, and increasingly we do almost last year, for example, of the contracts that we signed of record 2,09,000 crores, 81% was awarded to the domestic industry. Our intent is to manufacture in India, preferably with design also in India.
I am so elated to be on the same screen as the Defense Secretary, and I get a chance to talk about what he said.
In certain areas, like for example, artillery guns and armored vehicles, or in some categories of missiles like the BrahMos and the Akash, we've come of age.
What Defense Secretary Sir said is 100% true, and today private industry can really increase their involvement in R&D.
I am very proud to say that we make, in our categories that we have been supplying to our defense forces, some of the best platforms in the world.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola? Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
Imports become the exception rather than the norm, and increasingly we do almost last year, for example, of the contracts that we signed of record 2,09,000 crores, 81% was awarded to the domestic industry. Our intent is to manufacture in India, preferably with design also in India.
I am so elated to be on the same screen as the Defense Secretary, and I get a chance to talk about what
A very warm welcome to all our viewers. You're watching VoiceWhat Presents, the great business story transforming India in association with NDTV Profit. Today we're here at the office of Vahan in Bengaluru. Now, this is an AI-powered organization which is transforming recruitment, especially for blue-collar jobs. I have Madhav Krishna, he's the founder and CEO joining us. I'm having a chat with, a founder of a startup. But this, I really want to ask you this because a lot of them have been discussing over the last several years that AI is going to take away jobs. And here you are bringing in AI into your institution and giving jobs. Tell us more about Vahan, how does it operate and how does it really look to transform the country?
Our mission very simply is to bring opportunities to people. Our goal in fact is to bring those opportunities, including jobs, let's say, to about 1 billion people in the next 10 years. And we feel that with AI, we can perhaps get there in the next 5 years. Now, why this is important for a country like India, and this is a lesser known fact, is that 85% of our workforce is comprised of blue collar workers, right? So these are people who build our houses, who manufacture our clothes, who serve us a plate of food in a restaurant, who deliver our food from the likes of Swiggy, Zomato, etc. These are low-skilled people. 85% of our workforce comprises of those people. Roughly over 500 to 600 million people. And so it's, again, fairly obvious that the economic growth that India is seeing, and India, by the way, is slated to be the world's third largest economy by 2027. A lot of that growth is actually being powered by these people. Again, they power industries like construction, manufacturing, retail, logistics. And so those industries really are the core of the consumption in India. But the challenge is that job discovery for these people is still largely opaque, highly fragmented, highly inefficient. And that's where Vahan comes in. Right? We are trying to organize this space and really put it on steroids through the use of AI.
What are the challenges really when you have something like this that you talk about? You must face a lot of challenges because there are middlemen here who operate and bring these people to the forefront. Many of them, of course, come not from mainstream, they come from tier 2, tier 3 cities. So how do you really operate through these challenges?
A lot of people in India are still not digitally native. Most internet users in India came online in the last, let's say, 3 to 5 years. And what we found as we were building Vahan is that a lot of the visual paradigms that are used on apps, visual and design paradigms, are very West first. We feel that at Vahan, the way products and especially digital products are designed and built for a country like India needs to be completely rethought from the grounds up. And in fact, that's where AI comes in. AI can communicate with users in their language, and not just in their language, but in their dialect. In fact, when I think about AI, the acronym AI, I usually think of the A as standing for accessibility, and the I stands for inclusivity in my mind. So accessibility, why? Because you don't need a smartphone anymore, right, to use these products or services.